My sister told me, everyone's staying local this year. I nodded until I saw the charges. $11,200 for a charter yacht in Croatia, booked using my backup card. Then a text meant for my dad hit my phone. He's too slow to notice. He never checks that account. I smiled and reversed every transaction. By 6 a.m., they were outside my apartment, shouting. I opened the door and saw something that truly shocked me. The first red flag should have been my sister's casual announcement over dinner. We were sitting around my parents' dining table on a Tuesday night, picking at overcooked chicken and making small talk, when she looked up from her phone and dropped the news like it was nothing. Everyone's staying local this year. I nodded, actually feeling relieved. Flights were outrageously expensive, work was stressing me out, and honestly, our family hadn't managed a trip together since before the pandemic. Mom chimed in with something about how simple is better, and that seemed to be the end of it. No one looked particularly disappointed. I remember thinking I dodged a bullet. No airport drama, no overpriced hotels, no pretending to enjoy tourist traps. If only I'd known what was really coming. Less than 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed with a charge notification that made my blood run cold. It was from a card I hadn't touched since college, an old backup linked to a joint account I'd opened for emergencies. The charge was for $11,200 from something called Best Straw Voyages Croatia. My first instinct was fraud. Someone must have cloned the card or guessed the number. But when I pulled up the full statement, my stomach dropped through the floor. There weren't just 1 or 2 suspicious charges. There was an entire vacation mapped out in transactions. Flights to Split, a luxury villa rental, charges at seafood restaurants in Dubrovnik, prepaid reservations for activities I'd never heard of. One transaction even had my sister's name in the memo line. They hadn't even bothered to hide it. That's when my phone buzzed again. A text from my sister. No greeting, no explanation, just, he's too slow to notice. He never checks that account. Followed by a thumbs-up emoji. I stared at that message for a full minute, feeling something cold and angry building in my chest. They thought I was that oblivious, that spineless, that I'd just roll over and let them steal from me. Maybe a year ago they would have been right. I used to avoid confrontation, let things slide to keep the peace. But this was different. This crossed every line imaginable. I didn't reply to the text. Instead, I opened my banking app and got to work. I froze the card, flagged every transaction as fraudulent, and spent the next 3 hours on the phone with customer service reversing each charge. The representative actually sounded impressed when I explained what had happened. By 4 a.m., I was done. The money would be returned, but I couldn't sleep. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the calculated betrayal, the planning, the sheer audacity of thinking they could steal $18,000 from me and I'd be too checked out to notice. At 6 a.m. sharp, someone started pounding on my apartment door. Not knocking, pounding like they were about to break it down. I opened it without a word. All 3 of them stood there looking like they'd rushed straight from their beds. Dad's hair was still wet from the shower. Mom clutched her purse like she was heading to court. And my sister stood behind them in full airport gear, sunglasses, hoodie, suitcase in tow. She looked absolutely furious. They started yelling immediately. No, hello. No attempt at explanation. Just a barrage of blame and panic. You can't just cancel everything. We had plans, Ethan. You're ruining this for everyone. Then Dad cut through the noise with something that made my blood freeze. She's coming over right now. Don't make a scene. Just listen to her. I stared at him. Who? No one answered. My sister smirked and looked away. Mom, looking more annoyed than guilty, finally muttered, Harper. We invited her. Harper, my ex-girlfriend, the one who'd left me in March, saying she needed someone more present. What does she have to do with this? I asked. She said she talked to you, Dad replied. We paid her $500. I shut the door in their faces. Just like that. No explanation, no argument. I walked to my couch and sat down, staring at the wall as the full scope of their manipulation hit me. They had paid my ex The one person I still cared about more than I wanted to admit, to show up at my apartment and convince me to hand over money for their Croatian yacht vacation. After lying to my face about staying local, I thought that was the end of it. I figured they'd leave, maybe finally face the consequences of their actions. But 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. This time, when I looked through the peephole, Harper was standing there alone. She looked uncomfortable, like she didn't want to be there but felt obligated to follow through. That denim jacket I used to love seeing on her looked out of place now. The whole situation felt surreal, but I opened the door anyway. She didn't smile or say hello. She just stood there holding her phone in one hand and her keys in the other. "I'm not here to change your mind," she said quietly. "I just thought, I don't know. I needed the money." No apology. No warm-up. Just brutal honesty. I let her in, mostly out of curiosity. She didn't sit down, just hovered near the edge of my living room, looking around like she barely recognized the place anymore. Which made sense. I'd changed a lot since she left. New couch, new bookshelves, different curtains. Same emptiness, though. She told me they'd contacted her 2 days earlier. Said I was having one of my moods again, and threatening to cancel something that had been planned for months. That I always got like this under stress and needed a push from someone who knew how to talk to me. She hadn't asked questions. She'd just taken the $500. "I thought it was for a birthday or something," she said. "Maybe your parents were retiring. Something special. I figured I'd come by, say a few nice things, remind you how to be a team player and leave." I stared at her for a long moment. "Did you think maybe, just maybe, they were lying?" She looked down. I didn't want to think anything. Before she left, she hesitated at the door. "Your mom was crying on the phone, Ethan. Your sister said you were acting like a stranger." I didn't know what to believe. I didn't respond. There wasn't anything to say. She stepped out, and I closed the door without watching her walk away. 10 minutes later, the texts started flooding in. "From Mom, we just needed a little help, Ethan." Was that so much to ask? From my sister, "You embarrassed her. You couldn't even be decent to Harper." From Dad, "This was important, but I guess you never cared about any of us enough to see that." Then the tone shifted. They stopped asking for the full amount. Now it was just half 9,000 split between the three of them. "All we need is 6 from you. That's fair, right?" Like it was a fundraiser. Like we were splitting a pizza. They never apologized. Never acknowledged what they'd done. Just kept insisting I'd overreacted and ruined everything. That if I just let things go like always, this wouldn't have happened. I didn't respond to any of it. But I started wondering, why the desperation? Why go to these extreme lengths for a boat and a villa in a place none of us had ever even talked about visiting? That night I couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I got up and went through every bank statement from the past 6 months, checking for other unauthorized charges. Everything else was clean. It was only that one card they'd accessed. But the next morning, I got a voicemail from my sister that changed everything. No greeting, no context. Just her voice, low and serious. "He needs us to go. It was part of the deal. Don't mess this up, Ethan." I played it 3 times. He? Who the hell was he? And what kind of deal involved using my money to pay for it? That voicemail settled in my gut like a stone. This wasn't just some impulsive family vacation anymore. There was someone else involved, someone pulling the strings. And they weren't just hiding it from me. They were hiding it for someone. I didn't call her back. Instead, I started digging. I pulled up the original charge details, this time looking closer at the vendor information. Best Straw Voyages. I called the company, pretending to be a confused client who'd lost his booking confirmation. The guy on the line was polite with a European accent. Within minutes, he confirmed the reservation was still active. 7-day private yacht, he said. Split to Dubrovnik. Paid in full by a Mr. Ethan Carter. Party of 5, you, your parents, your sister, and a Mr. Leo Parks. I stopped him. Who? Leo Parks. He's listed as the primary guest for the villa. I'd never heard that name in my life. I hung up and immediately Googled him. Nothing at first, just a handful of LinkedIn profiles with no photos. But when I added Croatia to the search, a few things popped up. One Instagram profile with barely any posts. One photo of a sleek car in front of a stone house, tagged in Dubrovnik. And 2 comments under the post, both from my sister. The first, "Can't wait to see it in person." The second, "You're unreal." That's when I realized who he was. Her new boyfriend. I vaguely remembered hearing his name mentioned once. Something about how he's different from the others. From her, that didn't mean much. She'd said that about half a dozen guys over the years. I'd figured she met him at one of those rooftop parties she was always posting about. Nothing serious. Apparently, I was very wrong. The next few days were eerily quiet. No more texts, no one showing up at my door. I assumed the charge reversals had gone through and they'd finally given up. I went about my week, kept my head down at work, but I couldn't stop thinking about that name, Leo Parks. Friday morning, I got a notification from my building's front desk. Someone had dropped off a package for me. No return address. I went down to get it. Inside was a small box containing a pair of expensive sunglasses, the same brand my sister had been bragging about on social media, and a note written in block letters. "You owe us. Don't ruin this." That's when I knew it wasn't over. Later that night, my dad called. First time since the door confrontation. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't yell this time, just spoke quietly. "If you don't want to help, fine. But just know this trip isn't about luxury. It's about security." Security? What the hell did that mean? I called the bank again. Asked if there had been any recent attempts to charge the frozen card. There had been. 2 days ago, someone had tried to book a flight from Split to Paris. One passenger, Leo Parks. It was denied. Now I knew 3 things. They were still planning to go, he was supposed to leave before them, and this Leo guy wasn't just tagging along. He was running the show. And whatever deal they'd made with him, it wasn't for my benefit. Saturday afternoon, I drove to my parents' house unannounced. I knew they wouldn't answer if I called, or they'd just lie. When I got there, the garage door was open. I walked in and saw several suitcases lined up near the laundry room, Mom's floral one, Dad's beat-up duffel, and one I didn't recognize. Sleek, black, expensive looking. I walked straight into the kitchen, and there he was, Leo. Tall, confident, standing barefoot in my parents' kitchen like he owned the place. He had that smooth, practiced charm that slides into families without ever being formally invited. He didn't even flinch when he saw me. "Ethan, right?" he said, already smiling. "Good to finally meet you." I didn't answer, just looked around. No one else was home. He walked over to the refrigerator like we were old roommates. "Heard there was some drama over the trip. Your sister didn't want to tell you? Said it would get complicated." I still hadn't said a word. Then he looked directly at me and said something that made my skin crawl. "You ever been to Croatia? Wild place, especially when you know who to talk to. The villa isn't in my name, technically, but don't worry, it's clean. Mostly. That word hung in the air like poison. "What's this trip really about?" I asked. He laughed. "Honestly, it was just supposed to be a getaway. A chance to show your family something new. But your sister wanted to make it special. You were part of that plan, but things changed. What do you do for a living?" He smiled again. "Let's just say I move things." Right then, Dad came through the side door carrying groceries. He froze when he saw me, then forced a smile. "We were going to tell you everything," he said. "No, you weren't," I replied. "You were going to fly halfway across the world and hope I didn't notice." Leo leaned against the counter casually. "Look, man, I get it. You feel left out. But it's not personal. It's just business. Business." There was that word again. I left without another word. Sat in my car for 15 minutes trying to piece everything together. That's when it hit me. If Leo's flights were being charged to my card, if everything was being routed through me, then my name was on all those bookings. And if something went wrong out there, if something illegal happened, I'd be the one answering for it. I called the airline that handled the Croatia flights, pretended to be updating a passenger list. They asked for verification. I gave it. Then I canceled everything. The flights, the villa, the boat. All of it. That night, My phone exploded with messages from my family. But then, unexpectedly, Harper texted, "You need to leave your place. I just heard something. He's not who they think he is." "What do you mean?" I asked. "He's done this before," she replied. "Check your mom's jewelry box. He's already started." I didn't know how Harper knew any of this, and I didn't want to ask yet. I just drove back to the house, snuck in through the side door, and went to my parents' bedroom where Mom kept her jewelry. The box was open. Half of it was empty. Not just the everyday stuff. The heirlooms were missing. My grandmother's emerald brooch. The antique wedding ring that was supposed to go to my sister someday. All of it gone. I didn't touch anything. Just stood there with a wave of cold realization washing over me. I took a photo, then texted Harper, "You were right." She replied immediately, "I'm coming to you. Don't talk to them alone." I didn't ask how she knew because I suddenly realized she might have been more aware of the situation than I'd thought. Maybe Leo had said something in front of her, or maybe she was starting to regret helping them at all. I walked into the kitchen, not even trying to be quiet. Dad was at the table, typing on his phone. He looked up like he'd been expecting me. "We can explain," he said. "No," I replied, showing him the photo. "You can listen. This isn't a misunderstanding. He's already robbing you, and you're defending him." He looked at the photo, and for the first time in weeks, I saw it on his face, the shift, the sick realization that they'd been played. He opened his mouth but didn't say anything. I turned to leave, but right then the front door opened. My sister and Leo walked in. She saw the look on Dad's face before she saw what I was holding. Then she saw me, then the photo. "What is this?" she demanded. I didn't respond. Leo looked at all of us, smiled, then said, "Now this is getting interesting." He walked straight into the living room, sat down, and started flipping through TV channels like nothing had happened. I followed him. "You're done. You're not going anywhere. You're not touching anything in this house again." He didn't look at me. "You canceled everything, right? That was you." My sister turned toward me, suddenly pale. "You what?" I didn't answer. I just stared at Leo, waiting for a threat, an explanation, anything. Instead, he stood up, walked to the door, and said, "You all really thought I needed your money?" Then he left, just like that. No rush, no panic. He simply walked out like he was leaving after Sunday dinner. We filed a police report that night. It turned out more things were missing, smaller items, harder to notice. Gold cufflinks, Mom's birthstone pendant, cash from a drawer no one ever touched. The detective asked how long Leo had been around. My sister said a few weeks. That was a lie. He'd been coming and going for months, staying weekends, watching, building trust. A week later, we got a call from the police. Another family in Chicago had reported the same thing. Same guy, same story, different name. No one knew where he was. The only photo we had was from Instagram, and his account disappeared the same night he walked out. Just like that, he became a ghost. A very expensive, very smooth ghost. And my family? They didn't want to talk about it. Not until 2 weeks later when we were sitting in awkward silence and Mom asked, without any sense of irony, "Do you think we could still go somewhere? Maybe not Croatia, but something small." I laughed, but inside I wanted to scream. A few weeks after Leo disappeared, things settled into an eerie sort of denial. Like they'd all decided, without consulting me, to act as if none of it had ever happened. Mom started calling just to chat again, asking if I'd eaten lunch. My sister posted inspirational quotes on social media like she hadn't nearly drained my bank account for a yacht trip with a con artist. Dad went back to his crossword puzzles and weekend lawn care. Not a word about Harper. Not a word about the missing jewelry. Not even a hint about Leo. Until one Thursday night. I was home, half asleep on the couch, when Dad texted, "You up?" A few minutes later, he was at my door. Alone this time. No entourage, no agenda, just him. He came in quietly, sat down, and stared at my coffee table like it held the secrets of the universe. "We made a mess," he finally said. "And we kept making it worse every time we tried to fix it." He pulled something from his coat pocket and slid it across the table. Mom's emerald brooch. I picked it up. Where did you get this? Garage. He left a small duffel bag hidden under the water heater. Found it after the police were gone. I waited for him to continue. Didn't turn it in. Should have, I know. But I thought maybe we weren't ready for more questions. He pulled out an envelope, thick and wrinkled like it had been handled 100 times. Inside was a printed email, a screenshot of a bank transfer. $47,000 wired to an offshore account under the name Daniel Harper. The sender, my sister's email address. I looked up. Who the hell is Daniel Harper? He shook his head. I don't know. But look. I flipped the page over. Someone had scribbled something by hand on the back. Tell Ethan thanks for the ride. I sat back, stunned. You think Leo was using a fake name? Maybe. Or maybe Harper wasn't just some random boyfriend. Maybe he was watching us longer than we realized. The name bounced around in my head for a full minute before something clicked. I opened my laptop and started searching through old emails, typing variations of the name. There it was. 3 years ago, I'd applied for a short-term contract with a private security firm in Europe. Never followed through on it. One of the recruiters had signed their offer letter Daniel H. At the time, I'd thought it was just some faceless HR person. But the email had come from an encrypted server and disappeared a month later. I'd never replied. Now I was wondering, was that really a job offer? Or was it bait? I didn't tell Dad what I'd found. Not yet. I needed to be sure I wasn't spiraling into paranoia. But I did something else. I reactivated the old backup account they'd used to steal from me and put $100 into it, just to test something. The next morning it was gone. Transferred out. Same offshore trail, same name. He was still watching. Still checking. Still waiting. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. And I wasn't just some random victim anymore. I was a loose end. The dangerous kind. It's been almost a year now, and a lot has changed. Most of it doesn't show on the surface. Same haircut, same job, same basic routine. But underneath, everything is different. I look at people differently now, even the ones I love. I live alone in a downtown apartment. Nothing fancy, just clean, quiet, controlled. 3 locks on the door. 2 security cameras. I never used to be that guy, but I became him without even noticing. Sometimes I wake up and check my bank account before I brush my teeth. Just a habit now. Doesn't matter how many times the balance is exactly what I expect. I still check. I'm more careful about who I let in. Friends, dates, even family. Especially family. My relationship with them is tolerable now. There was no dramatic reconciliation. No tearful apology dinner. Just a slow return to neutral. I see my parents maybe once a month, usually at restaurants, never at their house. We don't talk about what happened. They avoid saying Leo's name like it's radioactive. Mom tries in her way. She texts recipes sometimes and asks if I need anything. Dad's quieter. When we do talk, it's mostly about work or whether nothing personal. My sister and I haven't spoken in 4 months. The last time we did, she asked if I'd gotten over it yet. Like it was some emotional phase. Like the guy who robbed us and almost dragged my name into something darker was just a bad breakup I couldn't let go of. She still doesn't get it. Or maybe she doesn't want to. I don't hate her. But I've started to think there are different types of betrayal. Some are loud and obvious, the kind that make headlines. Others are quiet, the kind where someone lets something terrible happen not because they're evil, but because they wanted something so badly they were willing to ignore the cost. I don't know if she's forgiven herself. I'm not sure she ever will. As for Leo or Daniel or whoever he really is, he vanished like smoke in the wind. No trail, no credit activity, no sightings. It's like he folded his entire identity and slipped it into someone else's pocket. Until last week. I came home late from work, tired and distracted. My mailbox had a single envelope with no return address. Inside was a glossy postcard of a jagged coastline with turquoise water. No message, no date. Just that photo. On the back, in tiny handwriting, told you you'd love the view. D. I didn't show it to anyone. Didn't report it. Didn't even tell Harper, who I still hear from sometimes. We message here and there, both of us circling our old connection without getting too close. She's in Seattle now, working, doing better. She still feels guilty about taking that money. She says she never cashed the second half of what they promised her. I believe her. I burned the postcard in my kitchen sink. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted to be done. Because whatever game he was playing, I wasn't going to respond. I wasn't going to get pulled back into whatever he needed next. Maybe he thinks he won. Maybe that postcard was a reminder that he can still see me, still reach me. But the truth is, I've already won. I walked away with my life, my name, and something he'll never have again. Trust. I know who I am now. I know what I'm capable of. And if he ever comes back, he'll find someone completely different. Someone who won't be fooled twice.